Welcome to this week's Who the Folk podcast. I'm Lonnie Goldsmith, the editor of TC Jewfolk. This week I sit down with Dan Goldstein, a contractor and the owner of 810 Builders. We talk about his favorite and least favorite projects, some of the struggles of starting your own business, and how the pandemic continues to affect his industry on this week's Who the Folk podcast. Dan Goldstein, welcome to the Who the Folk podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me.
We record live sitting outside at Caribou, and we're like the object of, it's like we're in an aquarium, and people laugh and point as they walk by us.
What's going on over here?
So you are the owner of 810 Builders.
Yes.
You're in construction. We were sort of talking before we started recording home building and remodeling projects that, I'm going through, stuff that you're doing right now. I guess for starters, how did you get into the building industry? How did this start for you?
The short answer is I kind of just woke up one day and just said, I want to be a contractor. And then I kind of just went and did it. Is the short answer.
All right, well, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah,
couch.
Take care. Have a nice day. But I don't know. The longer story is I always liked working with my hands. I always liked getting dirty. I always liked doing things.
Okay.
And never really had this as a career path. It was more, from my parents, always passed down. My dad was a lawyer. My mom was owned a retail store.
Okay.
And it really wasn't in my family at all. And they always were just like, work for yourself. Whatever you do in life, figure it out. Work for yourself.
Okay.
Which was always really good advice. And I was working at a steel company for a long time, and I just slowly. My brother and I also have some rental properties.
Okay.
And so I was always fixing those. And I started kind of doing small projects for people on the side at night or just on weekends or whatever, and realized that I really enjoyed it a lot. And after a while, I just said, I gotta just, now or never, If I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And just jumped in head first and went at it.
Well, it's funny because you and your brother, you mentioned your brother, Aaron Goldstein, from the Gold Group.
Gold Group Realty. Shout out.
Shout out to Gold Group,
Yeah.
TC Jewfolk sponsor. So thank you, Aaron and Gold Group. But he also took that advice, went into business for himself.
Yeah, he did.
You're both your own bosses.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
So how long has 810 been around as sort of its own entity? Obviously, you've been doing the project stuff for a little bit longer.
2016, it kind of, I started it as officially as a company. So I got, it's been 5 years.
Okay.
And not crazy amount of time, but been able to build it into something that's pretty good here.
That's
pretty quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the significance of the name?
It's actually my wedding anniversary.
Oh,
August
nice.
10th. Yeah.
Nice.
Don't ask me what year I got married, but I could definitely tell you. I could definitely tell you that it was August 10th. So.
Well, if your wife listens to this, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, well, she knows. she probably doesn't know either.
Well, if I ever meet her, I will be sure to remember to ask her.
Yep.
That is awesome. So, 5 years into it, what have you learned that you didn't sort of know ahead of time? Obviously, like the hands-on stuff, the building, the finding subs, that kind of that stuff But what sort of snuck up on you as somebody starting their own business that you didn't realize ahead of time?
I assumed that in general, working for yourself, you don't really turn it off. I didn't realize that actually meant that it just doesn't ever turn off. So during the summertime, I'm on site all day, and so that's go there, you're all day there.
Yeah.
Also dealing with subs and everybody from everybody else, subs and every customers on all the other jobs going on. So you're either on the phone or trying to work at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you also have to go sell jobs. So when do you have time to do that? It's either during the day, but I'm on site, so it's really tough to get away.
Right.
So I try to do all that stuff at night. So if I'm on site all day, I go home, try to have dinner with my wife or just be with my kid for a couple hours, and then go out and try to sell jobs in the evening. And people typically like evening appointments anyway because they're home.
Right. They work too.
Right. And
right.
it's tough for them to go home at 11 o'clock to look at a job. So, yeah, and then I got to figure out when to actually bid the jobs and do all my paperwork and my QuickBooks and all that stuff. So, it could be a 7 a.m. to, 1 a.m. deal every day if I wanted it to be.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And in Minnesota, we obviously have it's not so unique as, anywhere north, but You mentioned summer. Obviously, a busy time for you because that's when the outdoor jobs can really happen.
Yeah.
So that really, we have great summers here, but it sounds like might be a little tough to enjoy some of those.
Oh, definitely. And, even, so take, for instance, this summer, we had that 2-week stint where it was 100 degrees every day.
Yeah.
You can't even, it's almost the same as a rain day. I mean, you got to show up early and work till noon.
Right.
Because you can't be outside.
It's not safe.
It's not safe for anybody.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to, and you can't. It's not safe. And so, those are short days, and then you get a lot of rain days.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of interior work going on, too, so that's good. Winters it's a different story. It's you try to book interior work and keep things going, and you can do some things, but
Right.
for the most part, it's tough to replace somebody's front door in January,
True.
So,
Plus with the, I would think summer's just a popular time because people, if they go away, they have places up north, they can get away from sort of the chaos and the mess of their house.
yeah.
Then a little bit easier maybe than they can in the winter.
That's
It's
for
certainly
sure.
less appealing to go way up north in the winter.
Yeah. The larger projects, the larger scale projects, obviously people have to move out too in
Right.
general. So,
Yeah.
and then it doesn't necessarily matter because
That's true.
whatever. But people do like to move out more in the summertime than they
Yes.
do. Or they go to their parents' place
Right.
or their place in another state or something. But yeah, no, it's that. So that is probably the most challenging thing that I didn't anticipate was the total amount of time that you spend working.
So what type of projects do you typically do? Like what's the range?
So I mean, it's high percentage of residential remodel,
Okay.
and then also additions.
Okay.
So very much less new construction, very small amounts of commercial.
Okay.
So kitchens, bathrooms, basements, decks, a lot of decks.
Really?
Yeah. And those are fun. Decks are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also what I've been trying to pick up too is framing for other contractors. So if there's any other contractors out there listening that need a framer, give me a call. But I really, really enjoy the framing side of things. It's just fun to watch things go up and make things go up.
Yeah.
And, it's relatively quick. And, it's a skill that I don't think that a lot of seems like there's less and less of it available out there right now.
So why do you think that is? I've read other friends who have mentioned who are handy, who I've seen friends post on Facebook who are particularly handy that doing their own remodels because teaching their kids some of the trades.
Sure.
As, we called them back in at our in our school, like that kind of thing when they taught those things in public school. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's less people that are doing that kind of work, that kind of skilled work?
I think in general, people have found other methods to make money where they don't have to go and use their hands and beat up their bodies all day. And over the time, I mean, I just think it was a natural transition. I mean, when people moved to America in the 1800s or in early 1900s, right? I mean, that was a huge thing. Every city was being built, and there was a ton of people building. And I don't know where education was then, but obviously there's a huge push now for education. I just think in general, when you go to high school, I mean, it was never pitched to me, hey, you should go to the trades.
Right.
It was always go to college, go try to do something else.
Go to college, the 9-to-5 thing, make some money, settle down.
Settle down, and it was just there never was a huge push for it. And so, the people that I deal with mostly, if you just ask them, how'd you get in this? Why are you in this? Yeah. It's like almost 100% of the time. It's my dad was in it, my grandpa was in it, and now I'm in it, and that's it.
Wow.
So I'm definitely an anomaly.
Yeah.
That I just
which neither of your parents were in it.
Definitely.
And you just like doing this.
Yeah. I mean, we joke around about like my parents. My dad, he can't change a light bulb. He can. Sorry, Dad, but it's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. And it's also funny, too, I work for a lot of Jews, and I walk into a lot of Jews' houses, and they're like, are you sure you know what you're doing? Yeah, we're good. So.
They assume because you're Jewish, you don't know how to work with
your
hands?
Exactly.
Feels like a rude stereotype to me, but...
If we can't joke about it, then we can't.
I suppose not, yeah. So, all right, I'm watching this truck over here, and I'm waiting for him to start the engine right when I ask the question.
Sure, of course. He looks like he's on break.
And he looks like he's on break.
The old 8:30 a.m. 20-minute break.
That's right. All right, what's the project that you like the most? What type of project that you've done so far that you like? That's the one you really like getting into.
That's an interesting question. So there's only so many remodels, right?
Yeah.
In a house, right? So, I think it's more the process of I love taking dead space that people aren't using and try to come up with creative ways to make it more functional.
Okay.
You see a lot of houses that had 2 seating areas, formal dining, informal dining.
Yeah.
And they're 12 feet apart, and it's 2 full rooms.
Yep.
Why? I mean, some people still might like that. I don't know. But you walk into a lot of these houses now, and you're just like, if there's a way that we can eliminate that, turn that into one, now you have a functional space over here, and you have a functional space over here, and they're 2 very different uses. That's like my favorite part of the stuff. So yeah, I mean, like, do I love going into a bathroom and watching the transformation of, 1950s pink tile into nice. There it is.
There it is.
Hopefully he just moves now.
Maybe. I don't think he's going anywhere.
No, he's not going anywhere. He's looking for the AC. I wonder if they're doing a job here.
I don't know.
Are you? Okay, I'm sorry. We're just doing an interview, so I was just going to see if you could potentially move, but it's okay. If you're taking off, thanks, bud. I appreciate it.
Glad I let this run. I can just listen back and laugh about it later.
Yeah. There they go. Oh, perfect.
I was waiting for the dude to get in the truck.
Yep.
Okay, that's better. Even if we weren't recording, God, that's a headache. Just have that truck running. Good God.
Totally. And that's when everybody stopped listening.
Yes. All right, so I gotta remember where I was.
I think we were talking about what I enjoy or my favorite parts.
Okay, yeah,
of
yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't know. So,
All right, so the obvious next question then is, are there particular projects you'll do them, but maybe not your favorite things?
not my favorite thing to do. So I'm kind of a nerd. I just like watching work get done. God, what do I hate doing? Drywall. But that's one single step. No, not necessarily. I don't think there's really anything in like a home that I'm gonna walk in and be like, I really don't want to do this. I think it's more of bad ideas that I don't like doing.
Okay.
We try to talk out people out a lot of bad ideas.
So do you do a lot of the design work also? Do you work with the design? Like, I guess you have ideas and concepts at least in your head, and I'm sure as a homeowner who's done several remodels recently, we also have ideas. How do you sort of marry the two? 'Cause,
Yeah.
like I have ideas, but whether they're feasible or not, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So how does that work?
Definitely
in your
have
end?
definitely have ideas of design, and I'll try to do like an initial consult, and that's always the first step,
Sure.
right? You come out and people tell me what they want, and we kind of walk through that and go through high level general ideas and layouts and whatnot. Am I going to get into the actual like interior design selection phase for people? No. Like
Okay.
if somebody asks me, what tile to pick out, I'm going to be like, hire an interior designer. I don't really have that. There's a lot of companies that are design build.
Yes.
I'm really I don't have the design part
Yeah.
built into my company. I would just refer you to an interior designer. We work with a lot of people, and that's great. Also, sometimes we need a draftsman or an architect too, and we need those people to draw that stuff up. So I really try not to get into. If somebody asks me which one I like, I try actually to not say, because I don't want to try to steer that conversation.
Right.
I will definitely tell them though if there's something that I hate, because that I think that it's a lot easier to say. Just don't put that unless you absolutely love it. That's a mistake,
Wow.
Like
okay.
a color. We
yeah.
had a couple guys that we redid their kitchen, and they had like brown cabinets, and they had a lot of like darky kind of earthy tones in there, and they wanted to go with like a red on their walls, which is fine. I think it would have looked good, but it just is tricky to pick a red.
Yeah.
They brought home this color that was called tomato soup. So if you've ever eaten tomato soup,
Yeah.
it's more like a pink. I don't know. It's just like a very light.
It's lighter than you would think it would be.
Definitely. It wasn't a rich red.
No.
No. It was almost like it was tough. And they put a sample on the wall, and I think that they kind of liked it, but I mean, I walked in and I was like, you guys cannot paint your kitchen this color. Like, it's terrible. Like,
and the thing, I mean, and the other thing, when you throw a sample on the wall, it's like, I'm holding my fingers up. It's like a
2 inch, but yeah.
Yeah, 2 inch by 2 inch swatch as opposed to a 8 foot high by however many foot wide wall.
Correct.
Of that color.
Totally.
Because it looks good small, it may look terrible huge.
Yep.
And did they listen to you?
Yeah, they did, and
Okay.
we ended up, this was funny, but my sister-in-law does interior design stuff on the side. She, and whatever. I just had them call her because she's great with color, and they found this like maroon, and it was just like, it was perfect. It ended up being absolutely stunning, and they loved it, and they were like, "Thank you for at least like trying again," because the painters were there, they wanted to get it done.
Sure.
And it's like, just pump the brakes and do it right, because this is going to be on your wall,
Yes.
And
Colors are the at least for my wife and I, hardest thing to pick.
It's
We're
impossible.
terrible at
Yeah.
it. We are so bad. And she would agree with me even if she were to listen to this, but she's not going to listen to this. It's not you, it's me. She's not going to listen.
Sure.
And we'll look. It's absolute paralysis. You have all of these little samples, and you're holding the tile, and you're holding the countertop, and you're holding the cabinet sample, and you're like, what
What do we do?
What do we do? And then finally, you gotta just narrow it down and almost flip a coin.
One thing that definitely helps, at least in that process, is grab like 6 swatches and tape them together.
Yeah.
So at least it's bigger.
Oh, that's not bad. That's a good idea. We should. If we ever do another project, I'll have to try.
At least try, yeah.
Because it's so hard.
You can't get a good look at it.
No, and they're saying, this one's too green, and I'm like, it is? I'm like, staring at it, I'm like, it looks taupe. It's green. It's in the greens. Okay.
Oh, whites are the hard. There's 100,000 whites.
Oh, it's
and they're slight different creams and yellows. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So interior designers, they're great.
Yes. Yeah. No, I would rather have an interior designer say, this is what you're going with, and I'll say, well, okay.
Totally.
And sort of like you, I know what I don't like when you see it, but knowing what you actually like, what's going to look right with everything else, so much harder.
Well, we joke around a lot with my friends because, you'll walk into somebody's house and they'll have some one-off, bird sculpture thing in the corner, some just random thing that's just sitting in the corner. You're like, wow, that looks really good in this room. But would you ever walk into Home Goods and be like, oh, that's the one? You
Right.
never,
No.
you can't pick that out. But some
No.
people just have they're like, no,
Right.
that's gonna look great there. Just put it there, and then you're like, well, yeah, of course, makes total sense.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
All right, so in every industry, we talked about this a little bit before we started, every industry has been affected by COVID. And in going through my own remodel projects right now and talking to the subs and the contractor and project manager with it, your industry is no different. In fact, even more affected, I think, than people realize.
Probably.
What's these last 16 months been like for you? Not necessarily from a workflow standpoint. I mean, because fortunately you're able to still do some jobs, especially the outdoor ones have been easier early on in COVID. But supply chain issues really have affected you.
Supply chain's been a really tough thing, and not that it's been. I guess my customers have been generally pretty fortunate, and I've been pretty fortunate just with planning and starting early and saying, hey, we're going to start this later on, so we weren't necessarily waiting and trying to get those selections made and trying to get those selections bought. There has been a couple instances where people couldn't get the bathtub they wanted. Not that they ended up getting a bathtub that they really liked, but it just you're not going to wait till October if you're trying to get this thing done in March, right? So. From a lumber standpoint, obviously pricing's been an issue, but we've been able to get materials.
Okay.
It's been kind of goofy. Some tile has been out pretty far, but we've been able to get stuff.
Right.
For the most part. I do know I have talked to other contractors where it's just been a nightmare for them. I don't know if it's a scheduling thing. I don't know if it's a specific product they need. Okay, so for instance. For a lot of engineered products, LVLs and some specific products, they ran out of the glue from a manufacturing and supply chain side. I mean, they they didn't manufacture enough glue, and then they got shut down.
Yeah.
So they ran out of the glue that holds these engineered products together. So if you are trying to build something that's insane, you might not have been able to get your beam, just simply because.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so what do? You re-engineer it, or you come up with another solution,
Right.
or you wait. I don't know. You figure it out. There's always ways. So, yeah, I mean, last year was insane. Everybody was shut down at least, in March. And then as people got more comfortable letting people back in their homes and dealing with it, yeah, last year was a lot of exterior work. This year's been a lot more interior work. It's been okay. So Marvin windows right now, if you want a Marvin Ultimate, which is the top of the line Marvin window, it's 25-week lead time. I mean, that's half the year.
Right. Right. And our contractor had said, he's like, I'm not even ordering Marvin right now.
Yeah.
It's like,
you can get the mid-grade stuff, which is also great windows.
Right.
Those are still 12 weeks or whatever.
right.
So.
He's like, you need something quick. It's like, you can't
do
can't
it.
go to Marvin.
Yeah.
Even 12 weeks right now it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So we're, if you have noticed at all, like 2x4, 2x6s, those prices have come down.
Have they?
They've come down a little bit. They're still not where they were,
Right.
but at least they're down from what they have been here
Right.
recently. And but it's more the sheet goods, your subfloor material, your wall material, your roof decking material.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is just so astronomically expensive. But again, you can still get it. You just got to pay for it. It's terrible. So yeah, I've been fortunate. Been able to get people what they've kind of wanted. So
that's good
for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, we just found out, and obviously this is going to run after our project is finished, but found out that the shower head and the controls aren't going to be in for another month.
Sure.
Which they just, found out yesterday. I get it. Like, we put the order in really early, and you ends up looking at like probably 8 to 10 week time on something that's a pretty basic.
It's usually in stock 2-3 days. Yeah.
Kohler product.
Yeah.
And throwing on a temp, and they'll come back out and put on. I'm like, but yeah, that's. I mean, this is everybody's project.
Totally.
I think is there's some delay in something.
Yep. And not that delays always happen, right? And
Sure.
over the course of time, but even before COVID, and people, we're out of stock on that one. Okay, great. When's it coming in? Well, it'll be in next week. That's usually what you hear.
Right.
Right now they're like, 8 weeks. 12 weeks. You're just like, wow, it's unbearable.
Right.
What do you, 12 weeks.
Right, and that's the thing. I'm like, a lot of times you don't necessarily know that it's not going to be in time until the project is well underway.
Yeah.
Which I suppose potentially screws everything up.
Totally.
It throws and I would imagine it not only throws the job you're on off, but it potentially throws the next job and the next job.
Yeah.
Like everything down the line, it delays everything.
Well, and in defense of contractors, a lot of people always like to say, "Well, why didn't you guys just order this when we, we gave you the job? Why didn't you just
God, why'd you think about that?
Yeah. Doesn't always work like that.
No. But also, even if you did order it, it doesn't
mean it would have been in.
Right. If there's a problem with the Kohler or the Delta or the American Standard, whatever, it's going to delay everything.
Yep.
It's like, that means the project that was 10 weeks before yours is probably just getting theirs now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if everything works well.
Yeah. Trex decking right now is 12-week lead time.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's September. I mean,
right. And that's
might as well do it next year. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure you have jobs to go do, so I'm going to let you go. But last two questions,
Sure,
real quick, and get you out of here.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Jewish holiday?
Can I say Shabbat?
Absolutely.
Honestly, I love Shabbat every week. We try to say the prayers. We try to sit down and do it every Friday, and I just love capping the week off with that. So looking forward to that tonight, and so I love Shabbat.
Hopefully, slow down a little bit.
Yeah, light the candles, say the prayers, have a glass of wine. It's end of the week, and yeah.
What's your favorite Jewish food?
It's got to be matzo ball soup.
Okay. Any ones in particular?
Crossroads. Okay. Shout out.
Well, Dan Goldstein.
They also have the best challah too. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, Dan Goldstein, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
I
thanks
really
for having
appreciate
me.
getting to talk to you.
Absolutely.
And good luck with busy construction season.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity here. So, yeah.
The Who the Folk podcast is part of the Jewfolk Podcast Network, a product of Jewfolk Inc. Please subscribe, rate, and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. If you have suggestions for other podcast guests, please email them to me at editor@tcjewfolk.com. For our other shows, check out tcjewfolk.com/podcast.